right, ready? Your Bibles should be open to 2 Samuel chapter 20. We'll start here at verse 1, and this is lesson 26, speaking of the revolt of Sheba. So we left off last time. There was some animosity amongst some of the people. The 10 tribes kind of versus Judah. They each wanted to say, we are important, we're just as important as someone else. And so there was some animosity there. And things are not all great. David did make his way back to Jerusalem, but his difficulties aren't quite over. So let's see what some of these more of these are. Chapter 20, verse 1. And David fled from Naioth in Ramah and came and said before Jonathan, I apologize. I'm in 1 Samuel chapter 20. That was a long time ago to be speaking about Jonathan. All right. Well, you were too, huh? So it made sense to Kenton. He was agreeing, but the rest of you, sorry. All right, 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 1. And there happened to be there a man of Belial. Who's Belial in the Bible? What's that another name for? Satan. There happened to be there a man of Satan, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, we have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tent, O Israel. So every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah clave unto their king, from Jordan even unto Jerusalem. David came to his house at Jerusalem. And the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them inward, and fed them, but went not in unto them. So they were shut up unto the day of their death, living in widowhood. So, again, what a sad atmosphere of brother against brother. These are the 12 tribes, and now they're having their own little disagreement. It's like a mini civil war. They're not getting along with each other. That is a sad thing. It is saddening when God's own people can't get along with each other. They can't come to an agreement. But they must. God's people must come together. And so, somebody, Sheba, he's what we call an opportunist. An opportunist is someone who sees we don't say they're a visionary person. They can see some trouble. They can see through all of the difficulties and see right through and see to an end. And that end usually is some benefit of themselves. So it might be someone in today's day and age who can see through the troubles of some financial difficulties that might be coming up for the country. He knows what are some good decisions I can make for myself to make a buck here. Or it might be someone who can see through other political difficulties and I see some troubles ahead, but if I wait and wait and wait just for this opportunity, I can rise to the occasion and I will become an important person. That's the man Sheba is here. He sees disagreements amongst the people. He sees discord. He sees people who can't get along. And he says, aha, I will seize the moment. And although Absalom is dead and David is returning, there's still all kinds of dissension among the people. They don't like David because, Judah got there first and then they argued about this and that. I'll blow a trumpet and make myself king and order all the people to their tents. And so that's what he does. He blows a trumpet. He orders everyone into their tent. And there's a reason why he wants this. He sadly, so terribly sadly says, and this is why he's a son of Satan, we have no part in David, neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. By saying those words, he's saying, I don't want any part in salvation. Salvation, Jesus Christ, who will bring salvation, is going to come from the line of David. The inheritance that they will get from the line of Jesse is salvation. And here he confesses he wants nothing to do with that. Away with David. Away with his line. We can have our own kingship and rule. We can find our own way, is what he's kind of saying here. We don't need Jesus. We can save ourselves. And sadly, people in Israel follow after Sheba. You didn't have to really urge them or persuade them. You see, because the people are, there's still all of this discord. There's still all of this unknown. Who is our leader? What is our leader? And people are willing to go with the first thing. It's kind of like what we say sometimes, mob mentality. You do something you would never do. You wouldn't take a rock and throw it at a car passing along the road if you were standing there all by yourself. But if there were 10,000 people lining the streets all shouting in anger and madness against that, and a few other people were throwing rocks, you might say, well, nothing's happening to them. I'll throw a rock too. And so they throw it and they get caught up in that mob mentality. Well, the people here, there's discord. They're all probably whining and complaining and grumbling to each other and asking, who's the leader? Who is this and who's that? And some guy blows a trumpet. Wow, he blew a trumpet. Sounds like a leader to me. I'm following that guy. Sheba was an opportunist. He saw the opportunity here and he made himself a ruler. So he did that. David, on the other hand, he goes to Jerusalem. Now remember, he had left 10 concubines, women who he had been with, but he had not married. And now when he left them behind, of course, his son Absalom had gone unto them to make himself as though he was king. And now when he comes back, he finds them still there, and he takes them and he shuts them up and puts them in a place of safety. He would not take them as his wives anymore. He would not live with them. All right, so what are we going to do about this uprising in Sheba? Well, David has a plan here of some things that he could potentially do. Start at verse 4 here, please. 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 4. Then said the king to Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, now shall Sheba the son of Bichri do us more harm than did Absalom? Take thou thy Lord's servants, and pursue after him, lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. And there went out after him Joab's men, and the Cherethites, and the Pelethites, and all the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba the son of Bichri. And when they were at the great stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before them, and Joab's garment that he had put on was girded unto him, and upon it a girdle, with a sword fastened by his loins in the sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard, and with the right hand to kiss him. But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. So he smote him therewith in the 5th rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again, and he died. So Joab and Abishai his brother pursued after Sheba the son of Bichri. And one of Joab's men stood by him and said, he that favoreth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the people saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into a field, and cast a cloth upon him, when he saw that every one that came by him stood still. When he was removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bichri. David's foolish move at the end was to fire Joab and to make Amasa who had been serving Absalom, Amasa, the new captain of the army. So here we see the fruit of that foolish decision. And also, we could say, fruit of David's unwillingness to punish Joab before for other things that Joab had done that were wicked and sinful. Murder, in fact, was one of them. And we see that here again. So, David calls Amasa, says, assemble the soldiers, and I want you to do it in 3 days. Then report to me, and get ready, because we need to go and fight this Sheba. Well, that was foolish of David. Amasa can't assemble a whole army in 3 days, plus he hasn't worked with these men, right? These men have been part of Joab's men. They trusted Joab, but they probably didn't trust Amasa. So they're going to be a little bit slower. And there was hesitant. But there was need to go quickly, because the more time Sheba had, the more organized he could be and get more people, right? The more time you have, the more organized you can be. And so they needed to go after him now. So now David, afraid that he hasn't made a good decision, he turns to Abishai, who you remember is Joab's brother. So David knows, I've fired Joab, so I can't go talk to him next. But if I talk to Abishai, he'll probably talk to Joab for me and get Joab's advice and come along. So I'll use Abishai. Okay? So David tells Abishai that they need to also take this message to get ready to go fight the people. And of course Abishai talked to Joab, and of course Joab got together very quickly an army of Cherethites and Pelethites and all kinds of mighty men. And he got them to pursue after Sheba. So Joab and his men begin to march out of Jerusalem northward, it looks like, to Gibeon. And there they met Amasa on the way. Amasa had gone to some areas in the north too to gather some soldiers, and he was taking them, remember, back to Jerusalem so that he could go present his troops to David and then go after Sheba. Well, Joab sees this as an opportunity. Here's the man who's taken away his position. So we can be convinced in the heart of Joab is much jealousy. And because David's not around and they're out in the countryside, here's a perfect opportunity to take these men to kill Amasa. And also the men who are following Amasa were probably some of his former soldiers, so they would very quickly come on his side. Everything lines up in Joab's mind to take care of the problem. And he's going to take care of it by murder. So as he approaches Amasa, and Amasa is for Amasa, he probably doesn't have any clue why Joab is out here. He was probably surprised. Why would David do that? I mean, David had ordered him to do it. But anyways, as Joab approaches Amasa, what happens? Well, he makes his sword, I'm sure, falls out, we read in the Bible, it falls onto the ground. And it falls out just before the place where Joab is going to meet Amasa. So Joab probably stops, I got to pick up my sword, and Amasa gets close to him, and the way that one would greet each other in those days was to grab onto the beard. Remember we read about the beard, grab onto the beard and give the kiss on the cheeks. And that's exactly what Joab does here. He goes in, but meanwhile, he had bent down to pick up his sword, and he has it in his other hand, and he grabs the beard to kiss. And while he's doing it now, Amasa can't get away, and he takes the sword and thrusts it up into his belly by his ribs, killing him, because obviously it went into his abdomen, and he's going to bleed to death here very quickly. What do? Joab leaves the body of Amasa lying right there in the middle of the pathway, in the middle of the road. Joab and his soldiers, what do? They continue to march north to pursue after Sheba. David had left one man to be a guard over the corpse of Amasa, but all the other men are so in shock as they walk past, they begin to gather and look, and they're peering at this body. They can't believe it. There's the body. And what do? They begin to stop, and Joab quickly realizes this is foolish just to leave the body there. That's going to create trouble. So that man takes the body, hauls it off of the pathway out into some field, and covers it up so no one can see it. They're not gawking. And now the men can begin to pursue after Sheba. So what happens to Sheba? Well, that's what we see here in verse 14. Please follow on there. We'll see how he comes to an end now with Joab. And he went through all the tribes of Israel unto Abel. So that's where they go to Abel. This is Sheba. So we're kind of doing a little jump here. Unto Abel, and to Beth-Maacah, and to the Beerites. And they went, and they were gathered together, and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel of Beth-Maacah, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench, and all the people that were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then, so the people are all there, they're attacking the city. And here appears a woman on the wall. Then cried a wise woman out of the city, Hear, hear, say, I pray you, unto Joab, Come near hither, that I may speak with thee. And when he was come near unto her, the woman said, Art thou Joab? And he answered, I am he. Then she said unto him, Hear the words of thine handmaid. And he answered, I do hear. Then she spake, saying, There were wont to speak in old times, saying, They shall surely ask counsel at Abel, and so they ended the matter. I am one of them that are peaceable and faithful in Israel. Thou seekest to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why wilt thou swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? And Joab answered and said, Far be it from me that I should swallow up or destroy. The matter is not so. But a man of Mount Ephraim, Sheba, the son of Bichri by name, hath lifted up his hand against the king, even against David. Deliver him only, and I will depart from the city. And the woman said unto Joab, Behold, his head shall be thrown to thee over the wall. Then the woman went unto all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and cast it out to Joab, and he blew it, retired from the city, every man to his tent. And Joab returned to Jerusalem unto the king. So Joab and his soldiers continue marching north. When they arrive to the city of Abel, where Sheba has put himself, they surround it. And they begin to attack the city. They're probably building some towers to try to get over. They're probably hitting and smashing and chipping away at the walls and the doors and everything else, getting ready to batter the city down, to attack it. And God put in this city at this time a wise woman. A woman who knew the word of the Lord, and a woman who was able to help save the city. She calls out to Joab, why are you doing this? This is a city that is important to God's people. This is a city important to the Lord. This is a city of God's people. Why are you destroying it and ruining it? Well, Joab says, I'm here looking for only one man. Tell you what, you want me to leave the city alone? Fine, I'll gladly leave the city alone. Just send the man out. And she says, I will. And what do? They find Sheba in the city, the men of the city, cut off his head, and they throw it over the wall. That's pretty gruesome, pretty grotesque. Good reminder for us, sometimes we get really upset and all worked up about some of the things that we see around the world by other groups, specifically like ISIS and everything else, and we realize there's some pretty grotesque stuff here in the scriptures too. But this, though, is the work of the Lord. This is God's purpose. Because this man Sheba, and that's different than what we see today too. That's not the work of the Lord in other countries when men are doing that. It's part of God's plan, but it's not providential, blessed work that was done. Now, in this situation, Bichri is killed because he should be. He was a son of Belial. He wanted nothing to do with the salvation that would be coming from the line of David. And so the Lord needs to punish him for that and his uprising against God's holy anointed king, King David. And so Bichri loses his life here in this pretty heinous and horrible way. And when that happens, Joab blows the trumpet. The rebellion is ended. People are able to return to their homes and their cities and their tents. And Joab returns unto Jerusalem, unto the king. He's gotten rid of Amasa. He's gotten rid of Bichri. And now he probably thinks he can return to his important place too. So we need to see there is nothing right about what Joab did. Just because we think we're doing it for a good cause, but we are not obeying God's law, does not make it right. Well, I have to lie, but I'm doing it on the behalf of the Lord. It's not right. God's people could use this money, so I'll steal it. No, you can't steal to pay for these things that you think might be blessings to God. That's wrong. What Joab does here too, trying to work his own way, it shows a lack, and that's what it would be on our part too if we did something that we thought. It shows a lack of trust in God, that God's ways aren't good enough. We can come up with better ways for God. He should know how smart we are and how good we are and how we can come up with all kinds of good ideas. But that's not true. So God is using evil men to work for His kingdom here. There are many things that we could say too, even in our country, that God's children have to suffer because of the evilness in this country. The sins that we are tempted to do because our country allows them is difficult. The things we have to be concerned or worried about because of the sins our country allows. Maybe we're concerned about going to a bathroom or doing something because there may be a transgender person and we don't know. Well, that's something that we have to suffer under because of the country allowing it. That's a way in which we suffer because of the evil, the wickedness in our country. The evil, the wickedness that we see even amongst the people running sadly for president. and how they behave one towards another, the cursing and the swearing that pours forth out of their mouth are sad things that we have to witness. We wish we could plug our ears to it. But that's the country that we live in, a country filled with evil. It's a blessed country for us because God has given it to us. We can experience freedoms and we can experience the opportunities to have our own churches and schools and homes and worship. And we must be thankful for those things. And we must realize that we are sinners too. We're no better than any of these other people that we look around the country and see. We can't think of, well, I'm better than them, but I'm a sinner. I have those same wicked thoughts. I might not act in the same way, but I'm still a sinner too. And we should be humbled by that. And that should be humbling here, and I think we can say that too. The people of Israel, it was humbling. Now you might say too, one thing I didn't go over that I just remembered. Remember we talked about all of the people were getting worked up? And everyone was, oh, he blew the trumpet. Well, he's our leader, I guess. The problem with being someone who's an opportunist is as soon as opportunity goes the other way, everyone abandons you. And that's what happened here to Sheba. Once he got into that city, why was no one with him anymore? Simple. They didn't really feel he was giving them any advantage. They began to see the handwriting on the wall. This guy's going to lose. I don't want to be on his side anymore. Let's kill him. Toss his head over the city and be done with it. Then we've rid ourselves of the problem. So the problem of being an opportunist is when the opportunity sometimes doesn't go the way you thought it was going to go, you lose out big time. And that's what happened here today.